Carbonara is pasta which a lot of people, for some reason, add cream to, though it does not actually have any cream. I'm going to show you the traditional way of making it. But first, we need some pasta, right? What I've got here is a couple 100 grams of regular all-purpose flour or bread flour, hard flour. And I'm just going to tip this into my bowl here. And then I've got 100 grams of semola flour. So that's going to go in. And I'll just mix that around a little bit by hand. So basically I've got 2 to 1, 2 parts regular flour and 1 part semola flour, which gives me 300 grams total. And then for every 100 grams of dry ingredients, I'm going to add 1 egg. I'm also going to add about 30 grams of oil, and then I'll add a little bit of water. So I'll just tip this out. Clean off my hand a little bit and start to work this into a simple general purpose pasta dough. Okay, oh, what a workout. I am tired. So I've been kneading this pasta dough for about close to 10 minutes. And as you can see, it's become very, very elasticy and very, very smooth. So after about 10 minutes of kneading, 8 to 10 minutes, until the dough feels fairly elasticy, then what I want to do is just ball it up here. Okay, very similar to what we did with our baguette dough. And then I'm just going to put it into a bag. You can put it into a ball. You can put it into a bowl, sorry, and wrap it with plastic and put it into the fridge. Or you can just put it into a bag like this and then just fold it up. And this is going to go in the fridge. You want to let this rest for about 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, so we made our pasta dough earlier by mixing our flour, our semola, our eggs, a little bit of olive oil, and a bit of water. I let it rest for several hours. And so what I did with this dough was the ball that I had before, I just cut it in two and I just pressed it out into some small pieces here, some sort of flat pieces like so. And what I want to do now is start to feed it through my pasta roller. So to do that, I'm just going to take a little bit of the dough and I'm just going to slowly start to feed it through my machine. And it just comes out nicely on the other side. The key to this, though, is you want to make layers. So once it comes out, I actually want to fold it over on itself and do this again. So I'm going to do that a couple times. So as you start to roll the pasta through, it's going to start to get a little bit stickier. So what you can do is just take a little bit of semola flour and just dust that and the machine a little bit. And you're going to want to do both sides. And this is going to help the pasta come through a little bit nicer. And so I'm just going to go through again. And then we're going to dial it down again. When you're putting the pasta through the machine, don't go too low too fast. So don't bring the rollers together too quickly, or else it'll be very hard for the pasta to go through the machine and it probably will tear. So I'm just going to take my dough here. I'm just going to cut it in half. And this will make it a little bit easier for me to manage to roll through. So again, I'm just going to dial it down. And then it's going to go through the machine again. And again, if it's getting too sticky, just a little bit of semola flour just to help keep it from sticking to itself. And then again, I'm going to dial it down. And so now we've got a nice sheet of pasta, which I'm just going to let dry out for a little bit before I cut it into my noodle. Right, so as I mentioned, I've got some nice sheets of pasta here, and they've just dried out for a little bit. And what I want to do is now I can start to turn these into some noodles. So most pasta machines, either they're built in with noodle cutters or they have attachments that fit onto them. This particular one has a fettuccine and a spaghetti cutter. So what I want to do is move my handle. This is my power source, right? Move it over to my spaghetti. And I'm going to take a little bit of semola here. And I'm going to just lower this evenly into my spaghetti cutter. And just separate it really quickly using my fingers. And put a nice amount of semola flour on it to help keep it from sticking. And so there we have a nice little portion of fresh spaghetti. And the next thing we want to do is move on to our carbonara. So a lot of people when they make carbonara tend to put cream in it, which is actually a lot of Italians will tell you is a big no-no. What I've got here is I've got 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk, and then I want to take some Parmesan cheese, and I'm just going to shred some Parmesan cheese in here, okay? And then I'm also going to shred a bit of Parmesan cheese on my work surface here for when I finish my pasta. So I've got some Parmesan cheese here ready to go. So I'm going to take a pan and I'm just going to put my pancetta in it. I'm going to probably add a little bit more because once that cooks down it won't be all that much. And you don't need to add any oil because the pancetta here is made from the belly of the pork, so it's got a lot of fat already in it. And we just want to start to render this down. So as this cooks, there's going to be a lot of fat coming out of it. And as that fat comes out of it, what I want to do is just get rid of that. So what I'm going to do now is just add a good handful of my noodles into my pasta water. Just going to stir this around a little bit just to help it start cooking. So now you can see the pancetta is starting to go a little bit clear, a little translucent. It's starting to crisp up a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of my pasta water and add that right in. And I want to start to let that reduce, okay? So my pasta is going to be cooking for about 2 minutes. So it's been about 2 minutes now, so I can start to drain that off. So my noodles are going to drain off. And once they're drained, I'm going to toss them into my water here. Once they go in, then I'm going to add in my egg mixture off the heat. And for that, once I take it off the heat and add the eggs, the remaining heat from the liquid and from the noodles will start to cook all that egg, and that's what's going to make it turn into a creamy sauce. That's good. So I've got my noodles here, which are nice and cooked. Okay, we make sure that they're cooked al dente, which means that they're not super soft, but they still have some bite to them. Okay, So I'm going to take my spaghetti now. That's going to go into my liquid. I'm going to add a little bit more pasta water. And the reason we're using the pasta water is because there's all the starch from the noodles that we cooked in there, so the water will help to thicken it by that added starch. So once this comes up to a quick boil again, I'm going to add in my egg mixture. And I'm going to slowly start to mix this together. And it will become extremely creamy very, very quickly. And you can see now, it looks like there's cream in there, but actually it's just the egg mixture that's mixed with the pasta water and heat. Essentially, we've made a bit of a custard. So I'm going to take my bowl. I'm going to take my noodles. And those are just going to go in there. Just stack them up real nice. Then we're going to put a little bit of our pancetta on top. And then we'll finish this with a little bit of fresh Parmesan. And there you have homemade spaghetti and carbonara, the traditional Italian way. Good stuff.